Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today at this incredible Databricks Data and AI Summit. It's an honor to be here among such brilliant minds and innovative thinkers. Before we start, Ryan, do you know why did the machine learning model went to the therapy?
I do not know.
Anyone want to take a guess? Because it had too many layers and could not understand its own emotions. but again, just so we know, right? We are talking about machine learning here. And how many of you have heard the phrase, machine learning is the new electricity? Anyone? Eric has heard about it. Kiran, okay. All the Morgan Stanley folks have heard about it. That's great. It was coined by Andrew Ng. He is a prominent computer scientist and co-founder of Coursera. What did he mean when he said machine learning is the new electricity? He meant that it has a potential to change the way we are living, to change the way we are doing things. Okay, it is the once in a century kind of an event that could evolve into much more than what we see as of today. And that is the potential of machine learning. And as we speak, we are seeing that every day around us, how machine learning has been impacting our lives directly and indirectly. So we at Morgan Stanley have realized the potential of it, and we always believe to be on the cutting edge technology. And with that as our objective, what we have done is we have taken on a journey that explores how the machine learning capabilities can help us deliver best-in-class customer experience. Moving on, behold the customary agenda slide making its obligatory appearance. But fear not, I'm not going to go into the details. I will not linger on this too much. And we'll move on to our actual heart of the discussion and where the real excitement and the learnings await us. Talking about it, I would like to take a moment and introduce myself. I'm Raja Lanka. I'm working as a cloud platform lead for Morgan Stanley Wealth Management for over a decade now. Throughout my journey, I have immersed myself into the captivating worlds of data, analytics, and machine learning, witnessing firsthand the transforming effort it can have on any business, on any firm. Ryan?
Thanks, Raja. Hi, everyone. My name is Ryan Kennedy. I'm a solution architect here at Databricks. I've been at Databricks about 3 years. And I work with some of our large financial services customers. Specifically, I've been working with Morgan Stanley the past year and a half. We've done some awesome stuff together. So great to see you.
Absolutely, Ryan. I think we can't wait to take you onto that journey where we partnered with Databricks and a few other products, the suite of products that we have used and companies, and we have delivered what we believe is a once in a generation kind of a solution for our customers. And let's buckle up and embrace the power of machine learning and embark on this journey together. Before we go there, I just want to introduce my firm, Morgan Stanley here. Okay, and Morgan Stanley, as we all know, is a leading financial institution across the globe, which always works with the cutting edge technologies. But let us not forget the strong foundation of our core values that keep us grounded. Okay? They serve as the invisible thread that weaves through our DNA and reminding us of what we are and what truly matters. These core values infuse integrity, excellence, collaboration, innovation, and client centricity into each and every one of us. At Morgan Stanley. One of the fun facts, again, I would like to quote here is, we believe in our core values so strongly that we have contributed close to 3 million volunteer hours as part of one of our core values, that is give back. And that's our commitment towards our core values. Out of which I belong to wealth management. And wealth management is the leading organization within Morgan Stanley that is renowned for its expertise in managing wealth, offering comprehensive solutions for the customers, and help them navigate their financial needs and goals, achieve their goals. As they say, every story has to have a beginning, and this is where our quest begins, with the visionary words of Andy Saperstein, our co-president and global head of wealth management. Fueled by our thirst for innovation, so we set ourselves a futuristic goal or objective that was to deliver an unparalleled customer experience with focus on every individual rather than doing in market-led campaigns. We wanted to get into individual campaigns where every campaign would be as if it has been designed for a customer, not for a general public. And that is like a win-win for everyone involved, whether it is Morgan Stanley, the business, technology, or the customers themselves. That was our objective of it, and we have taken that as our business goal. Again, this talks about the suite of products and features that are available within Morgan Stanley. Just an information slide. I'll not get into the details of it, but the main idea was to have a revolutionary solution that will talk to every individual customer, whatever spectrum they belong to. As you can see, we have a wide variety of spectrum of solutions, and every customer is indeed special. Now getting into the journey. We initially had a lot of business and technical problems that we had to overcome before we achieved our goal. And we had to not just conquer from our business side of the goal issues, but also from technical perspective, we had multiple challenges that we had to conquer. It was just like untangling a slinky, okay? Or you could say it was like solving a Rubik's Cube blindfolded. It was that complex. Getting into the details, Ryan, would you like to take a first dig at this?
Yeah, sure. So a lot of wealth management companies are sort of looking after a few different technical trends, right? We've got hyper-personalization, automation, prospecting, market insights. But really, these aren't just problems that are specific to like a wealth management organization, right? These are problems that every type of organization faces, right? If you're a company that has products or services, you want to hyper-personalize what you're doing for those individuals, right? And so that's what we're focused on today. We're focused on like how do we look at the genome of a person? That's the phrase that Morgan Stanley uses. A person or an organization you're selling to. How do you take all of the data and the attributes associated with that person and actually give them a better experience, right? It's not all just about driving, business value for your organization, which of course is part of the goal, but it's also about actually giving a better experience, to your customers. So, yeah.
Absolutely, Ryan. Again, as Ryan said, there are some of these challenges that are industry-wide, and then there are challenges that were specific to Morgan Stanley. And we wanted to overcome both of these, and we wanted to deliver what we call it as, in our internal Morgan Stanley meetings, what we call it as Genome, which has been out there in the public. Articles have been published about it. And what it does, underlying, to give you a brief view of it, is it takes data, and data from multiple sources. We are talking about hundreds of data sets, thousands of attributes, which are spread across the length and breadth of not just Morgan Stanley, but also the other customer data sets that we have, which I'm going to delve into the details of it, but bring all the data onto one core platform and run the modeling which involves training of the model, scoring of the model, and orchestrating the communications of that outcomes to the customer in a specific way that is recommended by the model. So all of that encapsulates what we have done. So going into the journey, as I said, the biggest challenge in front of us was data. Data coming in from multiple sources, where we have acquired E-Trade, we have acquired E-Advance, ShareWorks. Every organization had their own data sets. They were capturing data which was much more than, it was like chalk and cheese when we compare with what we were capturing and what some of the other organizations were capturing that we have eventually brought under the Morgan Stanley umbrella. It was extremely important for us to create one version of truth, and that is for not one or two, it is talking about 15 million plus customers that are in the that have now come under the Morgan Stanley umbrella. And as you can see, we are rated always on the top 3 of the quadrant, whether we are top 1 for advisor-led wealth management or top 2 in workspace, top 3 in self-directed wealth management. So what does that mean in context of this? It means we needed to do this in a very seamless fashion. Say, for example, it was like changing a tire on a moving car. We could not slow down, we can't take a break, we can't stop what we have been doing, but at the same time, use innovative methods, use innovation as we onboard the new technologies, as we onboard these new features, functionalities, and deliver the seamless effect, seamless impact to our customers. Moving on, and that's when we started looking at some of the technologies to help us capture these attributes. As you can see, this is just a sample of the attributes that we have gathered as part of our one universal truth, or one true version of the data. We were talking about, just to give you some metrics, right? As I said, 15 million customers, close to 2,000 attributes, and coming in from 250 data sources. So that's the scale at which we were operating. And some of the attributes included the demographics, financials, historical transactions, client interactions, and few attributes that are fed directly into the system from all our source systems. In brief nutshell, what was the idea of our model? The idea of the model was to take these attributes, train them, score them, and spit out the output that defines what is the next best action. How should we engage the customer? What should be the point, or what should be the marketing campaign we should be talking about? And when should we be doing that? All of that is clear, is captured as part of our output from the best idea. As you can see, the best idea, not just the best idea, but at the right time and using the most effective channel. So that was the output we were expecting from this genome model. But to achieve that, we had some technical challenges that we had to overcome. And those technical challenges were, Ryan, would you like to take a first dig at this?
Sure, yeah. I guess there were a few challenges. The first thing I'll say is Morgan Stanley is an extremely advanced technical organization. So, some of the challenges were just simply because of the infrastructure available. They fall into 3 main categories, though. One was data science and machine learning constraints, so your data scientists not having all the tools and capabilities that they need. There were infrastructure limitations, lack of GPUs, lack of just machinery on-prem to chunk through all of this data, and then lack of repeatable processes and self-service. The time it would take for data scientists to get access to the data set that they needed, or to set up a process to productionize a model. A lot of that was manually done, and there was an obvious need for efficiencies there.
Absolutely, Ryan. Just if I may add, right? So one other thing is the interoperability and explainability. So we did have some basic models, if you remember, on-prem, but they were like black boxes. They were not in a place where we could share them, where we could derive value out of it, or we could reuse them in some of the other aspects. And that had to change, because we could not operate in silos anymore, and we wanted to create a better, whether it could be documentation for our model risk management to review and approve the models, or capture the artifacts of the model in such a way that they can be reused, and we can set it up in an automatic fashion where the model can survive, or where the model can operate on its own. The training and the scoring of the model can continue forever. That's also one of the challenges we had. And last but not the least, of course, the expertise and skill gap. For some of our data scientists, definitely moving on to a new platform, in this case Databricks, but any new platform, it required a steep learning curve, and they had to adapt to the new platform. And that presented its own challenges. And we had to, with the help of Databricks and our partners, we conducted some really advanced and intermediate and basic, like depending on the skill set of the users that were coming in, we conducted various trainings, and we were hand-holding them in the initial stages to be able to adapt to the platform. So now here's another fun fact. Again, so the next few set of slides that you are going to see, they went through multiple revisions at the hands of our risk, governance, corporate communications, tech BD, and ... So the list goes on. So we had multiple revisions of these slides, and at one point, I would be very honest, I myself did not recognize some of these because it changed. But trust me, we will be talking you through what actually we are going to communicate as part of the slides. But one takeaway from that is it tells you how seriously Morgan Stanley takes risk, compliance, and governance. So we are not allowed to share a lot of the information here. With that in context, let me tell you how we have partnered with Databricks and the other tools that we have brought in as part of our suite of applications that we have built in our universe, and how with these capabilities, whether it is elasticity on the cloud, whether it is pay-as-you-go model, and or whether we are talking about the ML automation that we could have achieved with the help of ML capabilities within Databricks, some of the solutions that we have derived. A quick look, again, Ryan, would you take a first dig?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about this. So essentially, Morgan Stanley said, okay, we need to set up a best-in-class ML platform, because it's not just going to be Genome where we're trying to do next best action. We have lots of different use cases that require machine learning models, and so we need to set something up that's repeatable, that's scalable, that people can get the most value out of it, right? So I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Databricks and sort of our end-to-end ML lifecycle, where you do your model training and tuning, then you do tracking on that, and you have the model registry to manage the model lifecycle from dev to test to prod, model serving and monitoring, getting that model into production, actually doing inference, and then automation and governance all around that, right? So when we think about the ML lifecycle, that's kind of the that's what we set out to set up at Morgan Stanley, so that we could onboard more and more teams with more and more use cases. And so on the model training and tuning side, I think one thing that's really it's really interesting that Morgan Stanley did is when you're training a machine learning model, you need the production data a lot of the times, because your model's only as good as the data that you have, right? And so what they did was they set up what we call a sandbox environment. It's actually a multi-tenant Databricks workspace where teams can come in and they get onboarded automatically with chargeback and everything, and they have access to production data in that environment. So that's actually step one in the software development lifecycle. These data scientists come in, they explore what data they have, they build models, they tune them, And then they go through the MLOps process where the models and the code goes from the sandbox environment, which is very secure, highly governed, to a dev, test, and eventually out into prod, right? Because in the true production, when these are being run as jobs in an automated fashion, you don't want actual humans in there, right? But the sandbox kind of allowed for that. So that was a really unique thing that Morgan, we spent a lot of time kind of designing and architecting. And then I think, just one other thing to call out on this slide is around the automation and the governance, right?
Absolutely.
Model risk management, for those of you in regulated industries, is absolutely critical. And it's really difficult. There's not like a simple way to do model risk management. But when you have a model that's going to actually be used in some sort of a business setting, you need to be able to explain everything about that model. Where did the data come from? Why did you choose this model over another model? And Raja will talk about some of the technical details. But in the first iteration of all of this, we did that all at the end, right? Where you finish the machine learning, you build the genome model, and then now we have to go do the model risk management. And what we're now working on collaboratively is building that into the development process. So when the developers start out in that sandbox environment, they're using templates, templatized notebooks, and MLflow, and all of that data is captured from the onset. So basically, by the end of your process, you've got 80% of your documentation done, right? So I thought that those were just two really interesting points to call out that might be relevant to all of you.
Absolutely, Ryan. I think it is pertinent to add here, right? So we have started with sandbox. As Ryan said, we have created a sandbox that is used as a pre-dev environment. So our data scientist community, they kind of want to get onto a platform and start experimenting, whether a model is actually feasible to be taken into a production life cycle and actually be deployed in prod. But for that, they need to get their hands onto the production quality data and operate at prod level. So it involves classified data, it involves PII data, and the full data set. They can't operate at pockets of the data like what we have in some of the dev and QA areas. So they need to operate at the full-scale data, and that's the sandbox. Now, what we are doing with, again, collaborating with our teams here, is taking that into a multi-tenancy sandbox where multiple teams can coexist on one workspace and continue their experimentations in silos without any cross-pollination or without any cross-access. All of that data compute at various levels, right? At a workspace level, when you look at it, their notebooks, their compute, their storage, and everything will be in silos. And they will be operating in their own swim lanes that we have defined. And that's one thing we have, which we believe is going to be a big game changer for all the application teams, because on an average, building a workspace within Morgan Stanley takes anywhere between 8 to 12 weeks. And we can't be building multiple workspaces for more than 200 projects, because we have close to 200 teams that want to experiment with this data. So that's where we came up with this unique concept of multi-tenant sandbox. And as Ryan said, another couple of important aspects I want to really touch upon is, one is use of Horovod. And that was again, once again, a big step for us, where it helped us to run these models in distributed environments. So the scale at which we were running these models was not possible on-prem, but even at the limited scale at which we were running in the other environments, that took us close to 16 hours to train one model on 1/10 of the data. And now we were talking about 1.5 billion rows of data. So we were initially training at 150 million rows, but we had 1.5 billion rows that we want to train on. And that's when we started using Horovod, which helped us to use the distributed computing of and the Spark capability of Databricks, where we have built clusters that have enabled us to run this training at the scale that we wanted and fine-tune it. And the training that was taking close to 16 hours now completed in less than 1 hour, in somewhere near close to 40, 45 minutes. And that was the scale at which we were operating. So those are some of the details. And last but not the least, I think one important aspect is the MRM, the model risk management team, that actually checks our models before we even start thinking of productionalizing them. The idea here is to check them for any bias, check them for any discrimination, and they have to give us a clean sheet. And for that, we need to create what we call as model review documentation. And that's one other aspect there where we have made some significant leaps into capturing some of this model documentation using the templates that Databricks has offered to us. And we are working in close collaboration with them to take it further, where it will generate this MRM documentation automatically. So moving on, this is what we have done as part of our overall data, the Genome project. As I said, it was at a very high level. The phases were we collected the data, we curated the data and generated the feature sets, and then we have used ML to define the eligibility logic, the feature sets where we have defined more than 200 rules that drive eligibility across our program. And that is fed as input. The rules that have been fed as an input, one of the inputs to the training. And now the training has spit out us the ideas on an individual basis. As I said, it does two things. One, it trains the model, okay, using the what we call as two-tower model. So as you might be aware, what does a two-tower model mean? So in a two-tower model, we deploy two neural networks. One is for identifying the suitable customers, and two is for identifying the best ideas. And eventually marry both of these and see which of the best ideas are actually eligible for suitable customers, and we rank them. And that is the end-to-end process that we have developed. So by the end of which, for every individual customer that qualifies for that idea, it tells us what is the best idea to reach them, how do we reach them, and when do we reach them. And all of that is spit out as an output from our model training and scoring. And we also used what we call as DLRM, that is the deep learning recommendation model. Why we did that is, as we sent these ideas out to our customers, we were also gathering the feedback, how they are receiving it, whether if we are displaying it as part of our UI, whether it is inviting them to click on it or not, whether they are suppressing it or dismissing it. All of that feedback is gathered as part of our program, and that is fed internally into our model the next time it trains using the DLRM, which is the deep learning recommendation model, which takes those feedbacks and uses that to next time make a better suggestion, give us the better output onto how to engage the customers. Or sometimes even, should we even engage the customer at this point of time, or should we actually suppress the customer for the next cycle? Maybe this idea is not suitable for this customer, and you should not be sending it this idea as a talking point. That will be suppressed. The idea will be suppressed. Moving on. So what we are able to achieve of all this is we were able to retrain the model, okay, based on the feedback from the customers. And as I said, we are doing the training on a monthly basis and scoring on a weekly basis. And this led to us being able to engage the customers on a much more interactive phase, and it led to 3.4x increase in the click rate. Based on our ideas that we have shared with our customers, it led to a 3.4x increase on the click rate and 2.1x increase in the new assets, net new assets, because of these campaigns. So how do we sum it up as business outcomes, right? When we have sent these ideas, we got the feedback, the customers have increased. But now, looking at the overall business outcomes from both the technical side as well as the business side, I'll, Ryan, take a first dig at the technical.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, there's a few things here. I want to make sure we leave time for Q&A. But I would say, obviously, Morgan Stanley had a few challenges, and we worked with them to, apply technical solutions, right? But the technical solution is only one part of the problem, right? Like, a technical solution's great, but that doesn't really mean anything to the business. So Raja made some really good points about like being able to get more customers, having your customers be happier because they're getting content that is more relevant to them. That's like a measurable business outcome that was a result of all this hard work, right? But there was a lot of value that was also driven for the tech teams, right? Genome was Morgan Stanley's sort of foray into the cloud to build a platform for the data scientists to use. And it's not like, you just click your fingers and overnight you have an end-to-end MLOps process, right? It doesn't matter if you have the best MLOps tool on earth, right? There's a lot of process that needs to get built in. There's nuances for the organization and the security requirements that your specific organization has, which means you might not even be able to leverage all of the capabilities natively that exist in that tool. So what we did was we spent a lot of time, setting the foundation with this first project, setting up an MLOps template so that the next team that came on, they were able to, like all of the Jenkins code already exists to migrate the models and the code from one environment to another, right? Templatizing everything that you can, everything from the CI/CD, the MLOps, setting up disaster recovery, right? That's something that is really important. And one of the things actually that I think is really unique that Morgan did was they set up a disaster recovery for their interactive users. Not just the automated jobs that need to run on a regular basis, but they have data scientists who are in that sandbox environment doing lots of ad hoc analytics. And if some outage occurs, they would need to be able to keep working, right? And so setting up tools and templates and scripts to kind of migrate all of that. Those are just some of the really interesting things that I wanted to call out here. But really, it all comes down to efficiencies, right? Not reinventing the wheel, allowing your data scientists to focus more on solving actual business problems rather than process, and just simplifying, governance of all of that.
See, that's what partners does, right? I forgot about the disaster recovery, and here our partners are reminding us. Definitely, I still remember the day when I asked him, Ryan and the Databricks team, when I asked them, I want to build a disaster recovery for our interactive workspace. Looks like, they looked at me very strangely, first of all, because our interactive workspace is bustling with activity. And we are talking about close to the target state, we are talking about close to 2,000 users doing things on the fly, creating thousands of temp tables or thousands of data lakehouse tables and stuff like that on the fly. And that is when I think it was all a distant dream. But I would like to use this opportunity and call out especially the PCTS team, core platform services team, enterprise infrastructure team, and the TechBD team that have really helped us. These are all the teams within Morgan Stanley which have come together and helped us build that interactive workspace disaster recovery solution, which will enable us now to fail over seamlessly. And the business users can continue doing their work depending on the frequency we set, right? For the recovery time objective and point objective, they now have the capability to fail over into a completely new region and pick up where they left. So that's the kind of innovation that we have done. And last but not the least, one of the things which I would also like to call out is the overall cost of operating on this platform. As I said, we are using pay-as-you-go model, and we have built some really serious clusters. Just to give you an example, we have built clusters with 10,000 cores of CPU, because that was the need of the hour. Some of the worker machines we are talking about is 100 cores per worker machine, and we have built close to more than 100 workers in experimentation mode. eventually which we have done a lot of optimization and reduced the overall consumption, but that was the scale at which we were operating. And just because we were operating with the pay-as-you-go model, we were able to meet our budgetary constraints and still be able to support our business with their experimentation. So before we move on, Ryan, do you think we should get an extra credit for not saying the words like LLM, generative AI, and the rest of the things here? What do you think, guys? We didn't mention that till this point. Do we get it? Yeah, I got a thumbs up there, so that's great. But with that said, right, so I think that's where the line is. That's where the future is. Okay, we can't, we have been keeping a close eye on these exciting advancements, and we, Morgan Stanley, take pride in being an early adopter. We have adopted whatever latest technologies that are out there, and we are eager to harness the power of NLP-based querying, and LLPs, and generative AI to unleash the next gen of that will give the required soar to our business, that will help our business to soar. What do you think, Ryan? We should be doing LLMs with Dolly?
We can use some other models as well. No, but I think in addition to that, I mean, that's an obvious next step, an obvious next area for us to look. I wanted to provide one other little practical thing that I think Morgan Stanley does that's really interesting, which is Morgan Stanley has a lot of data IQ users on-prem who they're citizen data scientists. They're not coders. They don't go, they're not people who would code in a Python or PySpark or SQL. And DB Connect v2 is one of the new things that came out from Databricks. It leverages Spark Connect, and you can actually connect those data IQ users to a Databricks cluster and get the elasticity of Databricks to run their machine learning processes and their PySpark processes. So I thought that was really interesting because it's enabling a whole another group of users that wouldn't necessarily be able to benefit from the elasticity and scale of the cloud, but because of DB Connect v2 they can. So.
Oh, absolutely, Ryan. I think that's once again is going to be a major milestone for us, because within our business we have users that are not tech savvy, that don't want to write SQLs, and they have been using this platform, Data IQ platform, for years now, and they don't want to change that. But they don't want to be constrained with the on-prem limitations, right? And that's where I think the DB Connect v2 will become a major player, where now we have the flexibility of Data IQ backed up by the power of Databricks. Now Databricks has become our compute engine for Data IQ, and we are now able to run those same recipes and workflows without changing any code. That's a big change. That's a big thing as well. There is no code rewrite that is needed, and you can run the same code seamlessly on Databricks using the DB Connect version 2.0. So my fellow data enthusiasts and machine learning enthusiasts, as we come to an end of this presentation, right? So let's take a moment to reflect on the key takeaways. What we have learned is, if we invest well in the foundation of creating a robust North Star, right? So I've heard this from a lot of other executives here, and I thought I would reuse it. It's important to have a robust and an achievable North Star, and keep your focus on that, and rest of the things will fall in place as we start working with a new product or a new tool. In our case, we have started with a business goal, and we have achieved that business goal with the help of Databricks and the features that we have enabled on Databricks, working in collaboration, sometimes failing fast, learning fast, and reiterating fast. And that's what we have done. And I think that is the key here, to fail fast and learn fast, and repeat, rinse and repeat. And that's what we have done. And as you know, the last thing is, most of us know, previously, a few years ago, I think, people used to work in the tech industry and support one product throughout their life. and they were happy, and they were the SMEs there. But that landscape is no longer here, and we are continuously evolving. As we adopted Databricks, since the day we adopted Databricks to where we are today, we have brought in so many new features with our requests, whether it is application level encryption on Databricks and ADLS, or whether it is DB Connect version 2.0, or whether it is the feature store integration, Unity catalog, or even the Databricks marketplace and the Databricks application sharing or lakehouse sharing. All of these features makes our bright future exciting, and we are going to adopt them as we go on to this journey. And I hope all of you are as excited as us to take on this journey. Ryan, any closing remarks?
No, thank you all for coming, and feel free to reach out to us or come ask questions. I guess we could do a Q&A.